It's Mo. It is the middle of September already, and I'm definitely in a reading slump. Let me turn off the fan. I'm definitely in a reading slump. I'm currently reading on audio Well Played, and I think that is partly putting me in a reading slump because I'm really not enjoying it. I'm also reading Life Drawing by Robin Black. I am really enjoying that, but I'm struggling to want to sit down to read it. I think also my schedule is changing and I've had a lot of things to do for changing jobs and the change in the season and just the come down and let down and settle down of summer ending. It's like very much fall, like already, even though we've still had some warm days and even though we've still been getting to the beach. Today, I have off. I didn't expect to have off. It's a Monday. I've had all weekend off. I took Saturday off specifically to do something with my husband. We went to a flea market. It was super fun. We had a great day. Got a little sunburn. Then Sunday, we went to a vegan pop-up. We mostly just hung out. It was rainy. It was gray. Now today I have off. And I think like the lack of schedule has me confused and is not helping my slump. It's going to be like a totally weird random day in my life. Not a work day, not a productive day, not a day where I think I'm going to get out of my slump, but I'm hoping that I will. I'm going to go to the Wall Library sale. This is a big sale that they have 2 or 3 times, maybe even quarterly a year, and I really enjoy it, so we're gonna go there. I have a bunch of errands I have to do, like I have to stop at the bank. I want to go to the Goodwill or Salvation Army, and then I should clean and do some chores around the house as well. So let's spend the day together and see how much reading we get done. I'll tell you right now, I have gotten 0 reading done so far today. I worked on editing videos. I made French toast for breakfast. What else did I do? I did something else I can't remember. So I'm hoping that I will finish Well Played, and I'm hoping that when Well Played is over, I will be able to move on to another audiobook and I will be able to just read a little bit more easily. So let's spend the day together. Hello. I have done a terrible job at this vlog because sometimes, like, at a certain point in the day, I just forget that I'm filming and then a whole day goes by. So I did go to the book sale and I was able to finish my audiobook, which was well played. So I do feel like I'm making a little bit of progress. I also read some of my physical book on Monday. I am making progress, but I'm definitely still also feeling slumpy. After finishing Well Played, I've only finished 3 books so far in September, and we're already in the middle of September. Wait, let me organize myself here. I thought I would show you some of my favorite finds that I found at the Wall book sale. After that, I went to a couple of little free libraries, and then I checked out the Manasquan library because I was close to there too, and I heard one of the little old ladies at the Wall book sale say that Manasquan had a book sale that was going on all the time, which was not accurate. They do have a sale shelf, like there's not like a big book sale all the time. At the Wall book sale, I found a lot of vintage sci-fi, which I was super excited about. I found 2 books by John Wyndham, Out of the Deep and The Secret People. Look at this cover, it's incredible. I read my first John Wyndham this year. It was The Chrysalids. I read that very early in the year and I loved it. It's probably gonna make the top 10 of my favorite books of the year for 2022. So I was super excited to find 2 more of his books. Also, I feel like they're really hard to find just physically anymore because I feel like he is a underrated and underloved sci-fi author. Then I also found Gods of Riverworld by Philip Jose Farmer. I really like the Riverworld series. I've read the first 2. I'm not sure where this one falls in the novels, but this cover is my favorite. It is Alice in Wonderland themed, and we used to have this one on my bookshelf. My dad owned it in hardcover and I would just stare at the spine. It's such a scary, weird sci-fi cover, so I really picked this one up just because it was this cover that I love. Next, I found a book that I've never heard of, and they had all 4 in the series there, and I thought about just taking the first one, but I actually took all 4 because I was like, if I like it, I'm gonna want them, and if not, I can donate them back to the Wall Library if I felt like it. Queen Lucia, and it is part 1 of Make Way for Lucia. This is a book by E.F. Benson, and there is a foreword by Nancy Mitford. So this book is from the 20s, and I think it's kind of a Jeeves and Wooster style, aristocratic, well-off young woman having silly adventures. Now, I know nothing about this book. I've never heard of it, but after just reading the back, it just sounded really interesting. If it is like a Jeeves and Wooster, P.G. Wodehouse, like silly aristocrat book, it just seems like a fun time. And definitely Nancy Mitford has been coming up a little bit more. I don't know anything about that author, but I know that she is underrated but kind of renowned. So interesting that she did the foreword. The next book that I was excited to get was Mrs. March. This is by Virginia Fato, and this one I've just heard some people talk about. It looks like this person only got a little bit of the way in. I think Jen Campbell really liked this book, and some other people that I read like this book, and it was on my want to read list, so I was excited to find this one. And then lastly is Vampires Never Get Old, Tales with a Fresh Bite. This is an anthology of short stories by various people, including Rebecca Rowanhorse, V. Schwab, and other authors that I don't know. But I had seen Books and Lala read this book. Now, this is one that I wouldn't normally get. I don't usually normally get anthologies of short stories. I do get short work by various people from a specific place. So like I got that Africa Water themed short story book, which was all different authors, and I have that huge book of Caribbean short stories that I want to read by different authors, but that's more like certain places where there are authors that I haven't read from. This is all authors that I haven't read from, but on a common theme, which I don't normally do. I remember Books and Lala reading this and liking especially like the Rebecca Rowanhorse story, so I figured I would give it a try since I saw it. Hardcovers were 50 cents and paperbacks were 25 cents. So I did buy a lot of books and I spent $10, and you can see all the rest of the books that I got at the Wall Library sale when I do my September recently acquired books video. So a lot of times when I'm feeling in a slump, buying books does not help me. Although buying books makes me excited for reading, it doesn't help me feel good about what I'm reading, and it sometimes can send me into even more of a slumpy feeling because like now there's all these, 20 books that I want to read that I can't read because I'm already reading something and it's taking me a long time to finish it. But one thing that sometimes does help me is to think about the books that I want to read in the month. So these are not all books that I'm necessarily going to read. I think we all know that I don't really set a TBR. These are books that like in my mind I might read after the book that I'm currently reading. Some of the other books that I might read this month or want to finish is Howard's End. This is my booktube spin 7 book 1 book, and I'm about halfway through, well, a little more than halfway through this one, but I stopped and I put it down and it's been almost a month since I picked it up, so I would like to finish this one. This one's a really slow book, so I don't think this is a great book for me to read while I'm in a slump. I also need to start reading Ghost Bride, which is my TBR tackle book for September, and I need to read Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead, which is my TBR tackle book for August. So I put this one off to buddy read it, but I haven't contacted Miss Danielle who wanted to buddy read this with me, so I should probably do that. This one I did actually start yesterday on audio at my office job. So I was able to read about 33% of this one, and you can see more of my thoughts when my TBR Tackle September vlog comes out. I've also been wanting to pick up Wisteria Cottage. I forgot to include this one in my DNF video because I had like just DNF'd it not that long before. I only got 53 pages into this one, but it was like a psychological physical horror that was written in the 40s, and I wanted to read this one. And then my other booktube spin book is Mycroft Holmes by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So this one is book 2 for the booktube spin, so I could theoretically start reading this one. I was thinking about reading Kim June, born in 1982, because I wanted to read that one last month for Women in Translation Month, but I didn't get around to it. There's also some other audiobooks that I've had my eye on, so those are books that I like to read. But like at this rate, this is going to be the slowest reading month of the year for me, which is not ideal, and kind of thinking about that is like a little depressing, but also maybe it's good. Like maybe I need to slow down and like take it easy and read things as they come. I don't know. Tonight I would like to go to dinner. I've been wanting noodles, so I would either like to go to a ramen restaurant or a pho restaurant close to my house. Hopefully I'll get to take a nap, the important things in life. Okay, so we all know that this is no longer a 24-hour vlog. This is a reading slump vlog where I am in a reading slump and what I'm planning on doing to get out of it. All readers have reading slumps, times where they are not reading, times where they want to be reading but can't, times where they can't ever find the right book, times where everything they read doesn't hold their attention, etc., etc. It's interesting because I literally just, before I turned on the camera, watched the TBR Diaries vlog. She is a really fun booktuber. I will leave her channel link below. She reads a lot of like high fantasy. She had taken quite a few months off from posting, and she just posted a new vlog, and in that vlog she says that she's in a reading slump, and then she takes it back and says there is no such thing as reading slumps. If you're in a reading slump, it is because you don't want to read the book isn't good, it's not the right book for you right now, you wish you were doing something else. Well, yes, that's true. But for me, that also is a reading slump. So I disagree with the TBR Diaries. I think there are reading slumps, and I think the distinction between the 4 things that she listed just as they are, which we've all experienced, we've all, again, not been in the mood for a book that we picked up and had to put it down. We've all wished we were doing something else besides reading. We've all felt we should read but couldn't get into anything that we were reading. But I think a reading slump is when the underlying factor to all of those things is that you want to be reading. Like, you wish you were reading, you wish you were reading more, you wish you were really getting into books and having a great time, but you can't. So for whatever reason, if your life is just too busy, if your brain is too scattered, if the books that you're picking aren't hitting right, you wish you were reading, but you're not reading. That to me is a reading slump. And that is how I have felt all September, basically. Maybe not like the first week in September. The first week in September, I was like, this is going to be a great reading month. And then it was not a great reading month. I think part of my problem is that I read Well Played on audio, and it was extremely long, and I really didn't like it, especially in relation to Well Met, which was the previous book in that series. And that really dragged me down on the audiobook side. And then I just finished Ghost Bride, which was my next audiobook, and this was another super long audiobook. Although I enjoyed this book and my reading experience with this book far, far more than I enjoyed Well Played, I do think that a super long audiobook with limited time to read audiobooks made me feel not happy at times. You can see more of my thoughts on Ghost Bride in my TBR Tackle September vlog. And then I read Life Drawing by Robin Black, and I finished that one. I really did like that book a lot, and it read fairly quickly, except that it was quite depressing and had a pretty depressing ending. So that one just wasn't a high, it wasn't a upper book that made you want to just run out and read more books. Since I last saw you, I finished Ghost Bride, I finished Life Drawing, and I'm currently reading Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. That was another one that, although I'm really enjoying that book, took me a while to get into. I did also start another audiobook, which is a children's Bible by Lydia Millett. This is one that I heard of, I think last year, and I was really interested in. It's kind of a cli-fi book, but I don't really know much more about it, and I'm only about 25% of the way through that audiobook. But I definitely chose a shorter audiobook for the end of the month, although I don't think I'm going to finish it in September, because I wanted to make sure that after these two really long audiobooks, I had something like short and sharp, quick to read on audio. Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead, I'm also not going to finish by the end of the month because our buddy read extends through the beginning of October. That might be a book that I would have plowed through, no pun intended, if I weren't reading it as a buddy read, because it is very compelling and intriguing, and although it is a slower toned book, it is a very engaging book. Here we are on a day off. I could just read Drive Your Plow. I could just read a children's Bible, but what I think I'd like to do is pick up a short book. It's still Shorty September, and if you remember, I divided my short books into 250 and under. I took all of my books off of my TBR that were 250 pages or under, and then I divided those 250 to 175 and 175 and under. The reason I did that was because Shorty September is for short books, but there's also Novella November coming. Those are books 175 pages and under. So I have a huge stack of novellas. This morning I went through and I picked out 8 novellas that I thought might be fun ones to try and read today, like in one day. Heather the Totality, Return to Poe, The Quarry, A Room of One's Own, Revenge, Kitchen, Thousand Cranes, and The Day After Tomorrow. Let me go through them really quick and tell you why or why not. A Room of One's Own is short but dense. There's barely any paragraph breaks, and it's long, so I'm not going to read that one, I don't think. Yoko Ogawa is a fun, fast read. I've never read any Banana Yoshimoto, and this is like a pretty short book. This book has deckled edges and French flaps, and I'm not loving how this is feeling, so I think I'm going to weed that one out. Both Return to Poe and Day After Tomorrow would be good because they're both sci-fi, and it is still sci-fi September. Return to Poe is a indie published, and sometimes those are quick to read, sometimes not. Day After Tomorrow is short but little tiny margins, but I don't know, it looks pretty short. Those are possibilities. Thousand Cranes is a translated work, huge type. Wari by Damon Galga is one of the longer page-wise, but so many of the pages are really short and the chapters are tiny. I just saw Simon Savage read this one, but I think I'm gonna wait for this one for Novella November. And then Heather's of Totality I picked up a few years ago at a little free library, and I think it's a family drama. I've always kept it because I kind of wanted to read it, but it is also extremely short. So I've whittled my pile down. So I'm gonna pick which one I might want to read. Read a fast, short, sharp book and just get ourselves out of this slump. It is the next day, and I did end up reading one full book yesterday. I decided to read Heather the Totality by Matthew Weiner. I didn't realize until after I read this book that Matthew Weiner was the creator of Mad Men, and this is his one and only novel, although he has written other things. This is definitely a novella coming in at 134 pages, and it's written in all extremely short, very matter-of-fact vignettes. It follows a family, a husband and wife, how they meet, how they have their daughter, and the complex relationships they have surrounding their daughter. We see the daughter from birth to about 14 or 15 years old. There's this complex family dynamic going on, but again, told in these very little vignettes with insight into the mother, the father, and the child's mind, frame of mind, and thoughts. Parallel to this, we're learning about a young man named Bobby and his very different upbringing and life. Hearing these two parallel stories, and you're feeling the tension that these stories are eventually going to come together. Although I enjoyed aspects of this book, I don't think it's a book that's going to stay with me for a long time, but I do think it's kind of exactly what I needed to help me get out of this reading slump. I feel like, although I'm not fully out, reading a book all in one day and this particular kind of super fast, super short book was helpful to just remind myself that you can just sit down and read for several hours, and that you can feel accomplished finishing a book, and it doesn't have to be the best book in the world. Along with this, I've also been reading Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. Now I feel much more ready and excited to read that. I sat down and did my 45 minutes of reading this morning, which I haven't been doing, which also is something that helps me get out of a slump, is to read first thing in the morning. Did I fully get out of a reading slump in this vlog? I'm not sure. I don't think so, but I definitely feel well on my way towards working myself out of this reading slump and towards having a better reading month in October. You can also always see all the books I talked about here in my vlog style monthly reading wrap up. Let me know what your top suggestions for getting out of a reading slump is. Let me know what tips or tricks you have that work when you're in a reading slump. Thank you so much for joining me for these few days in my life, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!